Okay, so this is lesson 5.7. We're dividing whole numbers by decimal numbers. So write that down in your math notebook and write down if you know anything about dividing whole numbers by decimal numbers, then come back to me. Okay, so let's take a look at this example. Dividing 243 by 1/10. So what decimal part of a dollar does a tenth represent? So a tenth is the same thing as having one dime, right? 0.1, one dime. So think about it. You have 243 and you're breaking apart the dollar bills from dollar bills into dimes, right? So how many dimes are in a dollar? 10, right? So basically what you're doing is each of the numbers is going to be shifting. You're dividing it into tenths. So you're going to get more. It's going to become 2,430. And if we look at our place value chart here, okay, so I went ahead and put my 243 in my place value chart. Now think about it. It's going to get bigger because you have $1 is being split up into 10. So 243 is they're all being split up into 10. So we're going to increase it by one place value. So the 2 is going to shift there. The 4 will shift here and the 3 will shift there. That's why we are getting 2,430. You're in essence, you're breaking it apart into smaller pieces. Okay. So what's happening to the digits? They each shifted one place over, right? And they all shifted to the left because you're getting more pieces. So why is the quotient 10 times the original number? Because there are 10 times as many dimes in 243. There's 10 dimes in $1. So they're all shifting one place over. All right. So look at 243 divided by 100th. Okay. So 100th, right? What does this look like? That looks like a penny, right? So how many pennies are in a dollar? 100, right? So what's happening? I'm going to have to shift each of the digits 2 times to the left because there's 100 pennies. So it's like if I was multiplying by 100. So let's look at the place value chart. Okay, so I still have my 1043, but this time is 100. So I'm breaking it up 10, 2 tenths, right? To get 100, a hundredth is worth 2 tenths. So the 2 is going to shift 1, 2. The 4 is going to shift 1, 2. And I don't have a place value here, but it would be 10,000s, right? And then the 3 would shift 1, 2. And that's how I'm getting my 24,300. So that's how I got that. That's in essence what's happening. Okay, so what's happening really? I'm multiplying it, right, by 100. It's getting 100 times bigger because there's 100 pennies in $1. So I got to multiply it all by 100. So there are 100 times as many pennies. I mean, yeah, 100 times as many. So what do you think is going to happen when we multiply? I mean, not multiply, when we divide 243 by 1,000, 1,000s, thousands, right? So think what decimal part of a dollar is a tenth of a cent? 1 over 1,000, right? 0.01. So what equation shows that? So it'd be 243 divided by 1,000. And so how many places are they going to shift? Well, there's how many places after the decimal? 1, 2, 3. So they're all going to shift 3 places to the left. Because remember, I'm breaking it apart. I'm dividing it up into smaller pieces. So it's going to get bigger because I'm breaking it up into smaller pieces. In this case, I'm dividing it up into 1,000 pieces, right? 1,000 smaller pieces. So Miss Moreno made 1 liter of grape jelly. She will pour it into jars that each hold 1/10 of a liter. How many jars will she need? So think, how many tenths are there in one whole? So one whole, if you break it apart into tenths, how many tenths are there? There are 10 parts, right? So that's the same thing as 1 divided by 1/10, which is equal to 10. Another way to think about it, the answer is the same as 1 times what? 10, right? 1 times 10 is going to give me 10. So dividing 1/10 is the same thing as multiplying by 10. And dividing by 100th is the same as multiplying by 100. So let me show you. So let's take a look at our example here. So here is my 1 liter of grape jelly. I just made it to a rectangle because it's easier. So here's my 1 whole, right? And what am I going to do? I'm going to pour it into jars that hold 1/10. So what am I doing? I'm breaking apart this whole into 10 pieces. So I did it on the next slide. So let me show you. Okay, so see what I did here. Here's my whole again. And I just divided it up into 10 because 1/10. So 1/10 would go there, 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 there. And if I count them up, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I need 10 jars. So remember that when we're dividing by 1/10, it's kind of like multiplying by 10, right? So keep that in mind. All right, so keep in mind that when we are doing division, remember, you know that division can be written as a fraction because we know that the fraction bar means division, right? So you can say A divided by B this way, or you can make it into a fraction A divided by B, right? Except for 0. And any fraction can be changed into equivalent fraction by multiplying the top and bottom by the same number, right? Remember that? Okay, so that's going to be helpful here. So let's take a look at that. So knowing that, okay, let's say we have 6 divided by 2/10. We have 6 things and we're going to divide them up into 2/10. So you can write it as 6 divided by 2/10, or you can also write it 6 over 2/10, right? You can write it both ways are the same. So we know how to multiply fractions, right? So what I can do is I could make an equivalent fraction. I want to change this, right? So 6 times divided by 2/10. If I multiply it by 1 whole, right, it's going to be the same thing. And remember, this 1 whole, I can change that to my 10 over 10. Remember that? Top and bottom. And to remember, if the numerator and denominator are the same, it's equal to 1 whole. So basically here, what they're doing, let me erase this so you can see it better. So basically what they're doing is they're taking the original problem here, 6 divided by 2/10 right here. We're multiplying the top by 10 and the bottom by 10. Remember, we can do that. And we want to do that because we want to change this 2/10 into a whole number. So 6 times 10 is 60. 2/10 times 10 is 2, right? I'm making it 10 times bigger. So now it's easy. I can solve that. That's the same thing as 60 divided by 2, right? Which is the same thing as 6 divided by 2, which is 3. And then I have my other 0, which makes it 30. Okay? All right. So what's going to happen, right? When we divide by 2/10, it's going to get 10 times bigger. When we divide by 200, it's going to become 100 times bigger. When we divide by 1,000, it's going to become 1,000 times bigger. Okay, so ready for the shortcut? Here's a shortcut for us to do these. Okay, so step 1. Okay, so this is still the same problem. 6 divided by 2/10. Okay, so this is what we do. And then 6 divided by 2/10. 6 goes on the inside, 2/10, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my decimal point after the 6. So there's my decimal point after the 6. I have 2/10. Remember, I need to make that into a whole number. So I need to multiply it by 10, right? So basically, what am I doing? I'm shifting it over one place. So it means I can add a decimal and shift it over one place. If I shift this one, remember, whatever I do to one, I do to the other. Remember, because it was a fraction. So shift it over one place. So in essence, it becomes 2 divided by, 60 divided by 2, which 2 goes into 6 3 times, minus 6, 0. And then I still have another place value. 2 goes into 0, 0 times. So it becomes 30. That's basically what's happening. So pretty easy, right? You look at how many decimal places to get to a whole. 1. No decimal, add my decimal, shift it over 1. That's all you're doing. Oh, before we take a look at one, let's review. To summarize, to divide a decimal, multiply both the dividend and the divisor, either by 10, 100, or 1,000, depending on what your decimal is, okay? And you're going to do this by moving the decimal point. If it's by 10, you're going to move it over one place because it's like basically like multiplying by 10. If it's 100, it's like multiplying by 100, right? If it's by 1,000, you're going to multiply it by 1,000, so it's going to shift over 3 places. Okay, so now let's take a look at this one. Basically, that's what we're doing. We're shifting it because in essence, we're multiplying either by 10, 100, or 1,000. Okay, and that's why the numbers are shifting. Remember, the numbers are shifting, not the decimals. The decimals movement is a shortcut. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. 6 divided by 2 hundredths. Okay, what are we going to multiply by? So let's take a look at it. It's got 2 place values, so it's basically like multiplying by 100, right? So I could do it 6 over 2 hundredths, and basically I would want to multiply top and bottom by 100, okay, which is basically 6 times 100, which is 600. And then 2 tenths times 100, right? 2 zeros, so it's going to shift over 1, 2. So it's 600 divided by 2, which is the same thing as 300. What did we multiply? We multiplied by 100. How many places did the number shift? 2 places and to the left, right? Another way to do this would be, let me erase this and then I'll show you another way to do it. Okay, another way to do this, to write it this way, right? Now we still have 6 divided by 200. So remember, I want to get this into a whole number. So I'm going to shift the decimal 1, 2 places. If I shift that one 2, remember to the 6, I can add a decimal there. Now I'm going to shift it 2 places, 1, 2, because of whatever I do to 1, I got to do the other one. Now here's my decimal there. I got to add 2 zeros. 2. Now it just becomes 600 divided by 2. 2 goes into 6 3 times, minus 6, 0. Bring down my 0. 2 goes into 0, 0 times, minus 0, 0. Bring down my last 0. 2 goes into 0, 0 times, 300. So 2 different ways to solve it, right? Okay, you try this one. 6 divided by 2 thousandths. What are you going to multiply by? How many places are the numbers going to shift and in which direction? You can do it either way or both ways. Okay, go ahead and solve it and then come back to me when you're done. Okay, so I solved it both ways. I did 6 over 2 thousandths. So this is thousands. I had to multiply the top and bottom by 1,000. 6 times 1,000 is 6,000. 2 thousandths times 1,000 equals 2. Oh, equals, oh, I did that wrong. Okay, sorry about that. 2,000s times 1,000 equals 2, right? And then 6,000 divided by 2 is 3,000. Okay. Same thing over here. I put my 6 inside. I put my 2,000s on the outside. I shifted the decimal 1, to 3 places. That means I need to shift this one 3. So I can add a decimal and then shift it 1, 2, 3. I got to add 3 zeros there. So then it becomes 2, and then it becomes 6,000 divided by 2. So 2 goes into 6 3 times, minus 6 leaves me with 0. But then I still, remember, I divided into the 6, so the 3 goes there, but I still have 3 numbers. So I got to put my 3 zeros equals 3,000. So I get the same answer. So what do we multiply by? We multiplied by 1,000. How many places did the number shift? They shifted 3 places because we have thousands, tens, hundreds, thousands, and they shifted over to the left, right? Because it got bigger. All right. Okay, let's try this one. 45 times, not times, divided by 5 tenths. Okay, so this is the same thing as 45 divided by 5 tenths. So I'm going to have to, it's like multiplying it by 10, right? So I'm just going to go 1 shift right there. I can add a decimal and do 1 shift right there. So that means I need to add a 0. So 5 goes into 45. 5 times 9 is 45, minus 45, minus 45, 0, 0. But I still have another placeholder there. Another 0, so 5 goes into 0, 0 times. So my answer is 90. Or I could have done it the other way, right? I could have done 45 over 5 tenths. And basically, it's multiplying both by 10, both by 10. 45 times 10 is 450. And then 5 tenths times 10 is 5. So it's still the same thing. See, 450 divided by 5. See how I get the same thing? And then I have to do the division. So it's easier to do it this way here. So, oops, my lights just went out. All right, got my lights back on. So in essence, it's the same thing. See, 450 divided by 5. 450 divided by 5. So in essence, this is a shortcut. It's way faster than doing it this way. Because if you do it this way, you're still going to have to do this, okay? All right, you try one. 56 divided by 7 hundredths, and then come back to me. So pause the video, then come back to me when you're done. Okay, so let me show you what I've done. When I did 56 divided by 7 tenths, so I took my 7 tenths, my 700, sorry, it's late. Can you tell that's why my light went off too? Okay, so it's my multiplying by 100, so I shifted it over 2 places. I can add a decimal, shift it over 2 places, and then that gives me 0. 7 goes into 56 8 times, but I still have 2 numbers here, right? It's like bringing down my 0, and 7 goes into 0 0 times, and then I would bring down my next 0, and then so that means I need to add another number here. So it'd be 800. 56 divided into 7 hundredths gives me 800 little pieces. Okay. Okay, try this one. 496 divided by 8 tenths. So do this one and come back to me. Okay, so I did my 496 here, divided by 8 tenths. It's like basically like multiplying by 10, right? So I got to shift it over 1 place. I added my decimal, shifted it over 1 place. I shifted this one 1. I got to shift that one 1. So it means I got to add a 0 here. So then now it's 8 goes into 49 6 times. 6 times 8 is 48. Subtract my 48. 9 take away 8 is 1. 1 less is less than 8. Bring down my 6. 8 goes into 16 2 times, minus 16, but I have another 0 here. So 8 goes into that 0 0 times. So my answer is 620. All right, write down what you learned today. Proof of learning by solving a problem. So something divided by either a tenth, 100, or 1,000. And then a reflection or a question that you have. So a whole number divided by a decimal. Okay.